Good evening and welcome to the Masheleng Money Podcast. I'm Nelo Mukhodzi, and on today's episode, we're discussing how immigration laws affect Botswana's economy. Our guest today is Mr. Martin Dube, a film producer and director at Skydivers Production. Tune in.
Thank you and welcome to yet another episode of Masheleng Money Podcast. Today we bring you a very, very interesting subject on immigration. The census is out and we just heard that we grew slightly, and we are discussing how that affects an economy, how a change in some of our immigration laws can actually help boost our economy. And joining us today is Mr. Martin Dube, who will be helping us to discuss this subject. Mr. Martin, thank you so much for joining us at Masheleng Podcast.
My pleasure.
Yes. So before we start, I'd like to give my guest an opportunity to just introduce themselves.
Okay.
Yes.
My name is Martin Dube. I am an entrepreneur. Mostly what I do right now is I have a television and film production company. I have about 30 years of worth of business and work experience. So that's basically what I bring to the table.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Mr. Martin, before we start, I'd just like to give a brief introduction of what we do here at Masheleng. We like to sensitize people on issues of money. In the simplest, way for everyone to understand, because when we talk about wealth creation and any other subject that relates to wealth, we normally look to people who have done finance or people who work in financial institutions. The idea is, if you've worked in a financial institution, you have a better idea of creating wealth, but really it's not about that. You need to have certain disciplines about wealth, certain introductions to how money works and all of those things. So I just like to ask this question. Have you ever been inducted, like growing up from a family setting?
My father used to run a bank.
Taught about money and creating wealth and all of those things?
Yes. My father used to work at Barclays Bank in Bulawayo for 30 years. So I became very familiar with a lot of banking ideas and wealth creation and everything. My father was born from a very poor part of Bulawayo. And so that working at the bank changed his trajectory. It changed, and because he introduced all his friends into banking, it changed their trajectory. People who became businessmen and everything like that, he helped them. In those days, banking was very different from what it was. And my father had to know his clients. He had to go to their, and he had to advise them how to build their wealth and everything like that. So today we have banks and we have people who are wealth managers and everything. It's too different. In those days, my dad had to know before, if there was no algorithm punched up in Johannesburg that would say, this is how you lend money in Gaborone. He had to come and visit your business, look at your business. And, he had rules. Like, it's funny, like, for instance, my dad would not take your house as collateral. He said, look, when the time comes, I have to take things. And he always felt that if you took a man's house, you destroyed him. So, he had some rules about how you did things. In those days, Zimbabwe's economy was growing. So it was a very dynamic, very aggressive type of banking. He helped start gold mines. I mean, you learned about the economy because he dealt with every sector. He talked.
No, that's really interesting. For someone your age, we never get people who would say, they have learned about money while growing up from a family setting. Most of, at least in Botswana, most of us, our parents are from the 50s, just before independence. And most of them, when they started working, money was really new to most of them, right? So they were just going with the flow, doing this and that, and racing us at the same time. So I think it was very difficult for them to really teach us the principles. I remember my mother worked in a bank, but I don't remember. I didn't know what was happening in a bank. I knew that in a bank there's a bank teller and then there's a bank manager. That's it.
Okay.
I didn't know that there were other relationships where you are managing business accounts. You had to, there's transactional banking, there's forex and all of those things. We didn't know that until I started, working in banking. That's quite interesting. And I understand back in the day, during my days at the bank, I would get clients who would say, back in the day, there used to be a chopper that brought in deposits. So the chopper will come with the cash, hard cash, so to bring it there. So I can imagine back then, money was a serious thing. Like it was taken seriously. Unlike these days, do you think people still have the same respect for money like they did before with all this plastic money?
No, look, I think what it is there's always two types of people in this world. There's people who respect money and there's people who don't. Now, it's just that the people who don't respect money tend to have visibility. They drive flashy cars and everything. But if you go around anywhere in the world, the really, really rich people, right? One time I was at the spa here in Fairgrounds, and you could see all the people were up. There was a white lady walking around, right? And nothing remarkable. Looks like a normal person. She finishes, the manager's standing, and as she leaves, he says, Mrs. Brink, thank you for coming. That's Derek Brink's wife, right? Whereas people who have a fraction of Mr. Brink's wealth, they try and show you, they wear gold watches and everything like that. So there's always two types of people. The people who respect money and they understand what money is, and then there's people who, look, there was a course I took at university that was rather controversial, and it didn't have a name, and there was only 3 subjects, there was only 3 students in it, but it was basically, it studied the psychology of why, of selling to black people, and what we found is that your personality is formed by the age of 7, I believe, between 5 and 7. So what you are at that age affects you for the rest of your life. So let's say you were brought up in the rural areas and you were poor. You come to the city, you saw rich kids and they're being driven to school, you're walking, you've got tachyo. That affects you for the rest of your life. So when you make your purchases in the future, you say, okay, I want visible signs of wealth. A Toyota Camry and a Mercedes E-Class do the same thing. But if I'm trying to sell to you, I offer you the E-Class because what? It shows that I've arrived. I'm as good, you see? That psychological thing can be exploited, okay? A Timex and a Rolex do exactly the same thing.
They show time.
They show time. But what you sell, right? Visible signs of wealth, right? And that's basically, and it's worldwide because a lot of black people, even in the diaspora, even in America, a lot of them were still born into poverty. So that when you watch basketball players from the NBA, they've got how many gold chains? Rappers, how many gold chains? Yes. And those are depreciating assets, as you know as a banker. The moment you take that Lamborghini out of the showroom, it goes down 25% in value.
And I've read The Millionaire Next Door. It has some really, really interesting statistics in there around who are the real millionaires. So the guy was doing a study in the States. About 1,000 millionaires interviewed. So he speaks about the real millionaires in the States, and the people that we see, he calls them the celebrities and stuff. Calls them glam millionaires. They form less than a percentage of the millionaires who are actually in the States, and most of them you don't see. They drive one car, sometimes 2 cars if you have maybe a spouse and children. They stay in the same house for a very long time. Maybe do some few renos there and there. As long as it's still functional, they will be staying there. So you're saying the millionaire next door is the guy that you don't even think that they are a millionaire.
Warren Buffett, one of the top 5 richest men in the world, right? Lives in the same house he bought in 1954. His wife gives him like $5 every morning. So he drives through McDonald's and buys himself a McMuffin or something like that. And he's a billionaire. Okay? And he said, yes, I can only sleep in one bed at a time. Can only drive one car at a time. I can only have 3 meals a day. Now, people who are not used to wealth, they try they try and satisfy some psychological yearning.
28 bedrooms, all in suit, like it's just you.
How many times do you have 28 guests in your house? You see, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Dube, so today we are discussing immigration. The census is out, and a lot of Botswana have been talking on different social media platforms around how our population is really not growing. And we look at our birth rate, also it's showing a decline. I don't know the reasons. Maybe you'll fill us in. But there's a serious concern around how our economy is going to grow, because we know that the greatest economies in the world, they've got large numbers, right? And that could mean a lot of things. But we do know that the greatest economies do have numbers, one way or the other, be it citizens and non-citizens, whatever. But there's a proper flow of cash within the economy. So I don't know what's your take on the latest numbers that have just come out.
Okay. Right. I don't know who said this, but in the last 30 years, somebody said demography is destiny.
Yeah.
Right? When we came up with our immigration laws in the 70s and 60s, conventional wisdom was that countries like India, they had too much population. China had to, and China bought into this, and they went into the one-child policy. And they didn't realize with technology, things changed. Now having a big population is very important, and having a vibrant, growing economy, a population helps your economy grow. Now in Botswana, we fell into that conventional wisdom. Here's the problem. We only have 2.3 million people. We are also victims of our own success. Now, as Botswana's incomes rose, we got free education, which means women are well educated. Now, I want you to think about all your friends who have a degree, right? Women, right? To ask yourself, name one couple that's got more than 2 kids.
It's one or two.
There's your problem. Because why? Because you want to send your kids to private school. There are 4 primary schools that are really expensive in this town. Northside, Thornhill, Broadhurst, and I think Westwood. Right? You're looking at 60,000 pula a year. If you've got 2 kids, that's 120,000 pula. You haven't fed them yet. You haven't clothed them yet. So let's say you're here. Now, you're in the financial planning business. I remember hearing somewhere years ago that as a rule of thumb, your kids should only cost 10% of what you make. If you're paying 200,000 pula, that means you and your wife have to have a combined income of what?
Of 2 million.
Yes. Most people can't afford that. We can't afford kids, right? And this is what I'm saying. I've been saying this for 20 years because I could see it. Because I lived in Canada, and when I was at university, I spent 10 years in Canada, and they were going through the same problem, and they had the same denial. Because Canada's fertility rate peaked in 1959. After World War II, they have what is called a baby boom in America, and baby boomers. It peaked. But since then, Canadian women have been consistently between 1.6 and 1.8 kids, right? So they need immigrants. Now, you meet the average person in Canada, they'll be like, no, immigrants are taking away. No. If you go into their restaurants and everything, you'll find when I was a waiter at university in my summer, the kitchen is filled with people from Sri Lanka, Ecuador, because they can't get enough people, right? It's a worldwide problem. It is not unique to Botswana. But the problem with Botswana is that we have a small population. They're telling us we're going to double our population in 58 years. Let me give you an African comparison. Nigeria is sitting at 213 million people today. They're going to have, in 2050, we will not have doubled our population, but they will have 400 million people. Now, you're saying to yourself, okay, there's jokes all the time about Nigeria, oh, it's corrupt, oh, it's this. And a Nigerian guy was interviewed. He said, yes, we can be corrupt and all that stuff. But here's the thing. Over the next 28 years, more babies are going to be born in Nigeria than in the whole of Western Europe. So if you're building a diaper factory, where will you build?
Nigeria.
There you go. Would you build it in Botswana because we have good governance and democracy?
Nah.
Yes. Right? Businessmen look at where the money is. Right? And that's basically what I've been saying about immigration, is that we will not reach critical mass. I understand what the government is doing, and it's admirable. But we have examples around the world that show you that you need immigration. Now, during the previous president's dispensation, I think we lost 15,000 immigrants, right? Yeah. We didn't give them, work permits. We didn't renew 15,000.
Yeah.
Now, let's look at it once again. Let's come back to your business, which is finance. Let's be conservative and say, on average, each one of those people was spending 20,000 pula a month in the economy. For 15,000 over 1 year, that means we pulled out 3.6 billion pula.
Yeah.
Now, where did we pull that 3.6 billion pula out of? Expats have different spending habits than we do.
Yeah.
If you live in the first world, you'll notice people go out 4 or 5 times a week. So the fine restaurants we used to have, Primi Piatti and everything, they start to shut down.
Yeah.
We don't understand why.
Yeah.
Those waiters lose their jobs. And the day that expat leaves, a maid is unemployed, possibly a gardener, possibly a driver. Some of them possibly had a business.
Yeah.
So now, comes back to you once again, to your finances. The multiplier effect. For those who don't know what the multiplier effect is, simply put, you want to put money in the hands of the poorest people. If I give you 1,000 pula, Dr. S, you're going to put it in the bank because you don't need it. You already, you have a bit of money, right?
Yeah.
But if I give, your young workers here an extra 1,000, what are they going to do? They're going to buy clothes. They're going to do. The economy grows. The money starts to move around.
Yeah.
So what we've done is that we're not making the money. The money flow. It's called velocity.
Yeah.
Okay? It's an economic term.
Yeah.
So the velocity of money is not there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And also, as I said to you before the podcast, if somebody here is of Asian descent, Indian or Chinese, they're born here. They go to one of the private schools, like we had a kid, like I said, an Indian kid who came number 1 in the whole world at O-levels or A-levels, for mathematics.
From this soil.
He's from here, born here, right?
Yeah.
He can't ever work here. So what have we done? We've sent him to the University of Cape Town or something. He's becoming an actuarial scientist. He will work for an insurance firm. He will make them millions.
To be productive, that's
right. We are losing that money. We are losing that money. But we are saying we want to grow Botswana indigenously. That's nice. That's a good idea. And when you use conventional wisdom, it sounds like a good idea. But let's use soccer. Do you like soccer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite team in the English Premier League? Man United.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect example.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What if I was the management of Manchester United and said, "Look, we're going to be rebuilding for the next 30 years." How would you feel as a fan?
I know.
Exactly. Because you've gone through 6 years of pain, right? You're like another 30.
I know.
That's what we're doing in terms of immigration.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas, Liverpool and those guys, when I was a kid, the English people were against foreign players.
Yeah.
No, mate, we don't want foreign players.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Today.
Now they're bringing in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Look at the English Premier League. The quality.
Yeah.
How many English managers in the English Premier League? Let's put up one hand and try and count 5.
I know 1,
2, 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah. You're right.
Yes.
You're right.
So we see examples.
Yeah.
Right? Now let's come back to business. The United States has something called the Fortune 500 in their stock exchange.
Yeah.
These are the 500 biggest, most powerful companies in America. Yeah. They're worth billions each. Of those, 44%, now listen very carefully, 44% were founded by immigrants. That's 223 companies. Out of those 223 companies, 101 were founded by a first-generation immigrant. That means the first person in that family to arrive in America started that business from nothing, grew it into a Fortune 500 company. 122 are second generation. Let me give you examples. Steve Jobs, you think American, right? Steve Jobs is his adopted name. Steve Jobs was the child of a Syrian refugee who had a child with a girl at the University of Wisconsin. She was too young, gave up the baby for adoption, and hence we have Apple. I have an Apple phone. We wouldn't have an Apple phone without Steve Jobs.
We wouldn't. As you are saying that, I'm recalling back in the day when we used to be at primary, junior, senior school in the 90s. we used to have a lot of foreign teachers teaching design and technology, sciences, maths, agriculture. Agric. I think a lot of guys from Zambia and Zim were teaching agric, and then we had a lot of Indians teaching sciences, maths, your home economics, and then design. It was Zambia mostly. So it was a good mix, and we kind of felt like we were in private school, but we were in government school. Because every time when those guys are in, they gave it 110%, and then they would normally bring their kids. So we had so your Indian teacher will bring their Indian kids. They'll also be studying in that school. The level of competitiveness of those kids, right? It pushed us. It pushed us really, really hard, right? Because I think it's because they're from a different world. Where they come from, they know that you don't take this things lightly. But we took a lot of things for granted because everything is free. The education is free, the health is free, all of those things. So for them, when they got that free thing, they took it serious, and it pushed us really hard. And I'm looking at the decline because we used to do really well back in the day. We used to do really well, and I'm looking at the decline in the pass rates right now, and I'm just thinking, could it be that we have lost all of that talent? And it wasn't just talent, because we also had Botswana teachers who were very good. And when those are around, they'll compete with them. So there'll be that level of competitiveness. But I feel we lost that drive. And then secondly, you spoke about spending habits of expatriates. And I was thinking again of a situation that happened in the Gulf estate, in most of the estates in Gaborone. Experts used to pay 25, 30 grand for a house in the Gulf estate, right? Because companies could afford to bring them in and pay that much. And they could also afford because they were earning large salaries. The moment they moved, the landscape changed in real estate. Those houses now were going down to 15,000, 10,000, some of the big houses. Mortgages were there already. You are committed to the bank. Now the prices have to go down because the expert didn't get a renewal on their permits. Those are some of the things that came to mind as you were speaking about the spending habits of experts and why it's important to bring them in, because they have they don't think like us, they don't move like us, so they help the economy to move in different directions. Mr. Dube, we are going to go for a short break, and then when we come back, I want us to expand more on the culture of foreigners, because every time when we think about foreigners, we just think you are bringing in a doctor. We have doctors. That's what we are thinking, right? So I want us to explore more on why is it different, and why we should be looking at it differently. To say a doctor coming from Cuba is different from a doctor who is in Botswana.
Yes.
All right.
I have experience with that.
Yeah. So we are going for a quick break. If you are just joining us, please don't change that dial. We are with Mr. Dube, and we are discussing immigration.
In our efforts to reach every Botswana, Ignite Wealth has gone digital. And we are excited to officially reveal our website so we can serve you better. In just a few clicks, you can have access to insurance and investment advisory, financial counseling, training and development for individuals or groups, online courses and trainings, our mentorship program, as well as blogs on financial tips and knowledge. For your convenience, We have included a 24-hour payment platform to allow access to our solutions anywhere and at any time. What are you waiting for? Visit our website on www.ignitewealthbw.com or contact us on 395-0026 or email us on admin@ignitewealthbw.com. Ignite Wealth. Ensure your tomorrow.
All right, and we are back. If you are just joining us now, we are discussing immigration with Mr. Dube. Mr. Dube, before we went for the break, we were just talking about the different things that we should be looking at when we say that we are bringing someone in. We're saying a doctor coming from Cuba, we can't equate them to a doctor in Botswana. What can you say about that?
Look, I've got an example. I just took my mother to India, to Mumbai.
Yeah.
Now, it's a culture shock when you get there.
Yeah.
First and foremost, the doctor we got to do my mother's back, they have a very elite, we have one medical school here in Botswana.
Yeah.
They've got hundreds, if not thousands. And the elite one of them, they have an elite school. The doctor that was working on my mum is one of only 5 people that's been given a gold medal over the last 35 years for being an outstanding student. Number 1. So you're getting the best of the best, right? So we're still equal, right? So you get the best of the best from Cicero Zakama, right?
Yes.
Here's the difference. That guy is doing surgery every day. Every day. People from all over the world. When we were there, there was a guy from Tanzania with a big lump on his head. He had to take it out. He's a neurosurgeon, right? So he practices every day, right? In the most competitive, excuse me, I should have switched off my phone. This is basically, he's practicing every day. Now, if you come to Botswana, a surgeon probably does surgery 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
This guy, you can't get him.
Yeah.
The day, if my mum had delayed, she would have had to wait 4 or 5 days before he could fit her in again. He's working, so constantly repetition.
Yeah.
You know, you've heard about the 10,000 hour rule, that if you do something for 10,000 hours, you become this guy. This guy is doing 8-9 hours a day.
Yeah.
They are on the ball.
Yeah.
Right?
It's similar to flying, right?
Yes.
You need to do certain number of hours.
Yes,
and certain companies can't
take you in. Yeah,
take you on board unless you have done, certain hours.
It's because you've seen so many scenarios. You've got the experience. If there's a crisis, you can handle it. It is not to say that doctors are not good here. It's just that there's a difference, right? They come from a competitive environment. It's like football, right? If we were to bring Ronaldo to come and play for Township Rollers, what would that look like? In his prime, at 27, 28, when he's at Real Madrid, right? That's what we're saying. Now, we understand that in football terms, but when you try and say it in business terms, people don't, we have a Botswana who can do that.
He's an accountant, he did accounts, he did ACCA, it's international.
Yes, and I always like to joke. It's like saying Tiger Woods plays golf. Yes, he plays golf. But, you see what I'm saying? Tiger Woods plays golf. Yes, he plays golf. But when Tiger Woods comes to play a golf tournament here, a week before, 2 weeks, a month before he arrives, people will come and say, how many porta toilets do you normally have? You say 500. They'll say you'll need 4,000. Because when Tiger comes, the crowds come. Right? And the money goes up, everything. I don't watch golf. But if Tiger Woods is playing, I watch golf. And guess what? The advertisers in America know this. He's still the biggest draw in his 40s. All right? Competing against men 20 years younger than him. He's doing exactly what they do. But, right? So that's one thing we have to understand. Is that just because somebody's doing something, right? We think that, okay, you can replace like for like. Right? No. If I take you out, you were at the bank for how long? You were in banking
about 10 years.
Okay, let's say you had 20 years and you're an expat. You leave. We replace you with a Botswana who's got 10 years. What's the difference? That 10 years, yes, you have institutional memory. When people retire, from jobs. There was a lady who was working in one of the departments here in government, Department of Environmental Affairs. When she left, you could see the difference when she left, because she'd been there for 25 years. She knew, you know, I'll give you an example with my late father. He used to work, he was a board member for a bank in Zimbabwe. And my dad had 30 years of experience. And at his funeral, the managing director says, you know what, all of us had MBAs. Your dad didn't. He had started from the bottom, so he knew all the aspects of banking because he climbed for 30 years, right? So now they were asking for some dispensation from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, and it was refused. So at a board meeting, the guys say to him, like, well, sir, Mr. Dube, the bank has refused this. The Reserve Bank has refused to give us this dispensation. And he says, well, why? He says, I don't know, sir. He says, who did you talk to? And they say the name. He says, well, that's why you didn't get it. You asked the wrong person. Go phone this person. Somebody left the boardroom, went and made that phone call. 15 minutes later, they had the dispensation. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I saw that. I think sometimes in 2020 during COVID, I was helping a friend. He was doing an acquisition of a business. So we struggled a bit with negotiations. You know, the legal terminologies of acquisitions and all. It was a complex transaction. We knew what we knew and what we wanted. But there was this gentleman, a Scottish guy. He used to be CFO for some time. He resigned. I mean, he retired actually. And so we contacted him and said, look, are you looking to do a gig? Can you come in and help us with this transaction? And I can tell you, that guy saved us years of negotiation. You know, he would come in, he would look at a contract overnight, and then the following day he'll be taking it down line for line, and saying, okay, be careful about this, do this. Let's call those guys, calling the guys in Cape Town, talking to them. Can you change this? Can you change this? But for us, we just felt, you know, that acquisition, we just needed to look at the price, look at certain conditions that we wanted, and then we are good to go. You know, and I think in the long term, that guy saved that company millions because of his experience. Now, where was he getting this? He was just not an ordinary accountant. He did a lot of acquisitions around Africa. And it was not just acquisitions, it was acquisitions in Africa. So he would say, look, the way you guys do things in Africa is different. You know, in Mozambique, this is what they will try to get from you. This is what they will try to get from you. And he knew the angles and where the contracts might be manipulated and all of those things. If you don't have that type of experience, that is not something that you learn from school.
Exactly.
Right? It is the type of experience that you get over time, you know, dealing with different people, with different companies. So I can relate to exactly what you're saying.
It's exposure. It's not that Botswana are not educated. It's just that, look, they like, for instance, the ladies that are doing your cameras, they went to Limco Queen, but they've never worked on a Hollywood production. That's a different ballgame. Yes, you can work on a low budget thing, but if you're working with Tom Cruise, you saw Tom Cruise, he was here. They're scouting for locations. They come like, it's like an army. It's a different level. So you need, sometimes we have to understand, we need expertise. Right? Yes, we want Botswana kids to be employed. We have roughly 80,000 unemployed. But at the same time, I remember at the same time I was talking to somebody about this problem about 5, 6, 7 years ago. They were saying the government can't fill 9,500 jobs. Now, imagine the private sector. So let's just be conventional. Say we have 80,000 unemployed, right? Well, why don't we bring in those expats? Because those jobs need to be occupied. That means, what do you... Now, people will be like, but you're not employing Botswana kids. But here's the thing. Those people come back. They now start to hire maids, start to hire gardeners. They start to work in restaurants. We're starting to stimulate the economy. It picks up. It's like rising sea levels. They raise all oceans. Okay? That we are stuck with a conventional way of thinking, which is based on the world as it was in the 1970s when we wrote our immigration laws, right? I mean, I have a friend right now. She's Indian. She's 42 years old. She went to 2 interviews for 2 major companies, insurance companies.
Yeah.
By far the most qualified. Blew the boards away.
Yeah.
They want to hire as a financial director, which is a crucial position, as you know.
Yeah.
There were certain board members who felt that there should be a Botswana. A Malawian bank sends a jet to Maun. They say, you fly, come and meet us in Maun. Interview's done. She's going to Malawi. Best qualified.
Yeah.
Best of the group here.
And we fail to get there
We can't because
of the...
because basically she's not Botswana. She's not Botswana. She was born here. She was born here. Right? That's a dangerous way of thinking. We are going down a slippery slope. You have to be open-minded. Now, I said in America, but let's look at Botswana. Think of some of the richest people you know in Botswana. What nationality are they?
I won't say, but I know.
Yes, because
one particular area.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Here's the problem. We have facts right in front of us. Why did those people succeed? Most of them are Asian. Why did they succeed? They came here, they had no cedar. They had no other benefits that a Botswana has. So why do they succeed? Because if you're an immigrant in any country, you have no choice. It's sink or swim. So your mentality is different, right? If you're a Botswana, you're like, hey, if things go wrong, I'm going Marakeng, I've got family, I've got this, I've got... That expat, when they come here...
I can get a grant.
Yes. There is no fair... There is nothing. And I always like to point out to people, right? What is the best trapeze act in the world? It comes from Russia. Why? You know the trapeze, they swing and they throw somebody and the other person is swinging on the swing and they catch them, right? Okay? The reason the Russian one is the best in the world is there's no net. You drop that person,
they go.
Yes. So for an expat, that's why expats and immigrants do well, ultimately. It's sink or you hit the ground very hard, right? Now, I met a Zimbabwean guy who had very, very good qualifications. When he first got here, he said he didn't eat for 2 or 3 days. And somebody offered him a job cleaning their yard. And he said, that's where he started. He's got his own business now over here.
But tell me, Mr. Dube, what would be the best way of doing this? Because I'm just thinking clearly, we need expertise. And most of them, they come here for business. They don't come here for employment. We just need to make sure that we have the right structures in place for them to want to come here. Even if we bring them in employment, most of them are not coming as juniors, they are coming as seniors. We need those skills at a senior level. And we don't have a lot of people there. So you can't say that we have taken a lot of jobs from Botswana at any point in time.
I agree. But even then, even at junior level, here's the thing, right? There's not enough. The national statistics have just shown us that women are not having kids. Now, we are thinking of a short-term problem. Now, yes, unemployment is a big problem. But the bigger problem now is population. Right? That means we are only going to double our population in 50. That means 2070. We will only be 4.6 million people. Right? That's not viable. Let's compare ourselves to countries like Qatar and Dubai. Right? Qatar's got about 2.3 million. Like I said to you off air, when I flew there on Qatar Airways, there was a young lady from Muchudi. She was one of our air hostesses. One of our waiters was from Zimbabwe. All the airline crews, you had people from Nepal, India, Singapore, you had Indonesia, you had Eastern Europe. One of the air hostesses when we flew back from India was from Poland. Right? We have, and now if that was Botswana, we'd be saying they're taking away jobs from Botswana, from young Botswana. But it's not. There's certain jobs, like for instance, like on the farms. If you read the daily news, regularly you'll see looking for a farm worker. What are they looking for? they're looking for a Zimbabwean. Right. Okay, because Botswana don't want to do those jobs. But we're saying, no, Botswana, go do those jobs. Botswana don't want to do. We're not listening to the market. Right? Now, this is conventional thinking, which is fine because that's how we've run the world. But in the 21st century, my postulation is this. In the 21st century, number one, demography is destiny. The bigger populations will do well. India, Kenya, Ethiopia, Nigeria, even the DRC, right? Do you know where the biggest population of French-speaking people is? Which city has the biggest French-speaking people? It's not Paris. It's Kinshasa. Right? That's where the future is. They have political problems now, but in the future, just the sheer numbers they've got are attractive to business. Ultimately, that's where the money's gonna go. We are gonna end up forgotten.
Right. You know, as you say that, this past month we were doing a seminar on agriculture, and we had a couple of farmers there who were just sharing their experiences. So, you know, all of them were saying, look, we've got jobs, right? We've got plenty of jobs. You always have jobs, right? I mean, farming, you always have jobs. You are always looking to add another hectare, and another hectare will need a couple of heads, right? But Botswana don't want to do those jobs, right? And we spoke a lot about our education and how we expose Botswana who maybe are studying agriculture. I mean, we have an agriculture school which is in Gaps. Bua. Every weekend the guys are coming to Gaborone. I mean, they're going to Pakalani, they're going to Cigar Lounge and going to Game City and all over the place. So they're used to the city life. Though they're studying agri, but they're not getting the practical experience of staying in a farm or in an environment that really nurtures agriculture, right? So Botswana don't want those jobs. So who is doing those jobs? Mostly Zimbabweans, right?
And the people that are running the farms are like the most successful farms. Usually are
they're like South Africans.
Right? Now, there's nothing wrong with that. We are eating.
So this is what I wanted to ask you, Mr. Dube. Unlike in first world countries where people are, that literacy when it comes to economics, maybe it's a bit higher than in most African countries, because right now we are seeing a situation in South Africa where South Africans are fighting, saying people have come to take their jobs, and we know that it's not true, right? We know that for a fact it's not true. If anything, those people are helping South Africans to get employed, right? But there'll be those fights. And I'm just thinking, even in Botswana, there has been complaints like that before, to an extent where government said, "Look, let's change our laws. Let's not renew expats licenses and all of those things." And we know that every time when we do that, we go backwards. We are not moving forwards. What is it that needs to be done for people to understand that these people, when they come, they're coming to help us? I gave an example earlier about when we were still at school. We used to be in the same class with Indian kids. Normally, you get that in very expensive private schools in Gaborone, right? But we were getting that in Boseruwe, Bopalape, and we learned a different culture of learning and hard work, right? So what is it that needs to be done to ready Africans to say, we need those people to come here, they have to be our friends, we need to go shoulder to shoulder so that we learn their skills? Because taking Mr. Dube to America to go and learn a certain skill and hoping that he will come back, it's suicide, right? Probably you get there, you learn certain skills, you love the environment, it's conducive for your growth, you stay there. So the best thing we know is for us to bring those people here.
Okay, I'll address that last part as well. But here's the thing. This problem is not unique to Botswana. This is one of the problems that made Donald Trump win an American election. Voters worldwide have now been brought this story that foreigners are going to take their jobs. It's not true. In the United States, they have cheap food. One of the reasons they have cheap food is because about 58% of the workers on those farms in America are illegal immigrants. right? So it's actually, people think this problem is unique to Botswana. It's not. You go to South Africa, any economy that's thing, right? The laws are not in catching up with the reality on the ground because politicians know that this is a hot button issue. I have the biggest sympathy in the world for politicians worldwide, because no matter where you go in the world, it's the situation of immigrants. Brexit was one of the results of people not wanting.
It's a political thing, yeah.
Brexit, which I don't think is a wise idea for the United Kingdom. It happened because people don't want immigrants. Yet the women in Britain are not having kids, right? So they're like, no, we want to choose. You're not going to get to pick and choose because you're competing, right? You were talking about sending kids overseas and hoping that they'll come back. When I was in Canada, they still had a similar attitude to what we had, but they've changed. Now, if your son or daughter is in certain STEM, science, technology, whatever, mathematics, and they're in an area of study that Canada needs. My brother teaches at one of the schools and is a placement officer. He says that when you get to places like Canada, right, they will offer that child a permanent residence as a first-year university student. That means, because the Americans and the Canadians are saying, look, we're getting all these kids from all over the world who we believe can help us. Why are we letting them go back?
Exactly. And I've been seeing a couple of the ads on LinkedIn that aggressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what we must understand. The 21st century, as I said, is about demography and it's about talent acquisition. We need to acquire talent. It's like football. Manchester United doesn't have the right type of talent. So they're floundering, right? They're spending a lot of money, but they're floundering. And this is what I'm saying. You need to go out and get the talent. You go across the border. You go across the border to Zimbabwe, to South Africa. You go overseas. We need to bring in more people because women in Botswana are getting more educated. They're not going to be interested in having 3 kids because, like I said to you, it means you have to make $2 million a year, to be comfortable. Because most people who are sending their kids to private school, it's heavy on them.
It's heavy.
I know people who are sending their kids to Hilton College. Hilton College is 300 and something thousand rand a year. It's about, I worked it out, it's $20,000. I don't know what $20,000 is what, times 14.
That'll be,
So that's about, it's about 280,000 pula.
So,
one kid.
So they need to be earning over
2.8. Yes, that's what it
means.
means. Right? So now we have, look, it is not a palatable subject. But at a certain time, it's like when you're sitting at the bank and you're trying to tell somebody, you can't go for this loan. It's not, it's too much. Right? At a certain moment, politicians all over the world, including Botswana, have to sit down with people and say, listen, this is what we're going to have to do. Because Botswana is in a very poor place right now. We have a 39% pass rate at O level. We want to become a country that's into the 4th industrial revolution. You can't do that with 39% pass rate. 39% pass rate includes D's. So that means the number of people who actually passed with the things that we want, A's and B's, that's very low.
It's dropping, yeah.
Right, it's about 10, 15, 20%. Right? We can't grow the economy like that. And as I said to you, Rudy Giuliani, he's now in trouble. He was working for Donald Trump, but he was the mayor of New York. He came to South Africa about 10, 12 years ago when President Obama was in power. And there was a panel. And somebody asked him, what do you think about the future of South Africa? He said, your future of South Africa has already been decided. Go look at your school results. Now, this year, we have 39% pass rate. We've had that or thereabouts for the past decade.
Sometime,
Okay? So we know exactly what will happen in 30 years. We know the economy. We know the future. We know the future. So what do? We can try and fix it in one way. There's nothing wrong with fixing it. But you've also got to bring in other people. Okay? If we succeed with the 4th industrial revolution, it means the economy is going to be growing and we're going to need those skill sets.
So even if the birth rates can accelerate, we with the pass rate going down, we are still producing something that is not going to be giving us a desirable future. So we need the quickest fix is to get people who already know.
You can do both.
Yeah.
Two things can be true at once.
Yeah.
You can be trying to fix the education system, trying to fix that. But in the meantime, grow the population.
Yeah.
Grow the population.
Yeah.
You know, we have to face up to the fact, right? I've been talking about this for 20 years. I said this day will come. Yeah. Because when I came here, when I came back to Botswana, like all my friends that I acquired, in fact, most of them had one kid. Okay? Yeah. These were well-educated black women, degrees and masters, everything. They all had one kid. And I'm like, you know, if this is across the population, we have a problem. And those statistics that came out on Monday, they hit us in the face.
Yeah.
You know, we've gone from we've gone down by 0.4%, 3.7 to 3.3. Yeah. I think don't quote me on that, but I remember that's the thing. We're coming down. That's a household. That means there used to be 4 people in a house. There's now just over 3. Yeah. Which means what? Botswana women are having 1 kid. Some are still having 2. Very few are having 3. Once you have educated women, remember we are victims of our success. Yeah. Yeah. Once you have educated women are not into 5 or 6 kids, guy.
Nah.
They're not.
Don't stay home.
They don't stay home. They have careers, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, name one person you know who's got 5 or 6 kids.
Yeah.
Name one. I don't know any.
Nah.
I know one of my friends. She's got 3 daughters. Yeah.
No, people are always surprised. I have 4, so every time when I say 4, everyone is like,
But I mean, how many people do you know who are like you?
Nah, I don't.
And and you know, just look at what you're going to be. Look at your food bill every month. Yeah. Look at what your school fees are going to be like, and then just think about everything else after that. Yeah. It's a huge expense, right? And like I said, it's a very difficult. We have to face up to the fact. Guys like you are very rare. Yeah. You know.
No, you know, I'm totally for bringing in skills. I call it skills. Yes. I don't call it bringing in foreign nationals because they're just people like us. I call it bringing skills because we need those skills. Yes. I mean, even if you look at South Africa, most of the guys who are really doing well, they've done very successful startups. Running large corporates and stuff.
I know some of them. I grew up with some of them in Zimbabwe. Yeah, Grant Patterson, the guy who was in charge of what's the holding company that owns Game, right? Grant Patterson was my junior at Falcon College in Zimbabwe. Yeah. He made 220 million rand from that acquisition when they sold the company that hold Massmart. Was sold to Walmart, the American company. Grant Patterson went to school with me. Yeah. The guy who is now taken over as CEO of MTN went to a school called Christian Brothers in Bulawayo. Most of those people we knew. Bongani Mwababa, the former CEO of Sasol, $21 billion in revenues, biggest company in sub-Saharan Africa. I grew up with him. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. And you see, they went over there and they took the chance. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that, look.
And you can imagine that's just maybe one person or 2 people creating thousands and thousands of jobs. And you come and say they took your job.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying is that, look, I know a guy in Mogoditsani. Yeah. When I first saw him 20 years ago, he was one of these bush-type mechanics, right? He's now got a garage in Mogoditsani, I think one in Palate and one in Thing. Now, you would have kicked that guy out 20 years ago, right? Yeah. So this is what I'm saying, is that the conventional wisdom is to think that immigrants are taking away jobs. Look, let's look at it this way. If we took all the immigrants that are here and we took their jobs away and we gave them to Botswana, would that finish our unemployment problem? No, it wouldn't. Not even. It wouldn't. So what's this obsession?
Chances are it might make matters worse. I know a couple of companies that were taken over from foreigners and given to Botswana. Companies which were doing quite well, employing a lot of people, As soon as our people came in, they couldn't run it successfully. People lost their jobs and all of that because we did it prematurely, not because Botswana couldn't do the job, but we did it prematurely and we did it for the wrong reasons, right?
Yes.
If someone, it's creating employment within a country, that should be the primary goal because it's improving the livelihoods of those people. And like you said, sometimes when we have, say, a teacher, they're employed in a particular school somewhere. We look at them and then we say they have taken someone's job. But what we don't see is how they like to live their lives. At home, they hire 2 maids. They have 2 gardeners. Maybe a Botswana would have hired 1 maid because we are normally used to 1 and 1, right? Maybe they have done 2, right? Maybe the way that they like to buy their groceries and the other stuff that they do on the side is totally different from Botswana. Yes. So that is how they create employment. But we don't look at those numbers, at those things, right? We just look at it from the side.
I'll give you an extreme case. There was a company that invested in Choppies, somewhere, an American company, around $180 million. At the time, it was 1.8 billion pula, right? Now, the guy who was representing that company's interests in Botswana is a guy I met called Matt. He was getting 90-day permits. 90-day permits. Yeah. He's brought in 1.8 billion pula. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Right? We have to start understanding that we have to re-look, okay? As a country, the way we will succeed, we can't do it without immigration. I know people will be like, oh, this and that, oh, this and that. Yes, all those things are probably valid. But immigration and how we handle it is very, very important. The 21st century, and I'll repeat once again, it is about talent acquisition. Your rivals, Liverpool, went and acquired better coaches, better players. Now they will smoke you every time you meet them, right? Okay? So now if you want to compete on the world stage, we are saying, no, Rana, we want Botswana. So we have a team like Township Rollers, nice team. Let's say they win. Imagine Township Rollers against Real Madrid.
I can't even imagine it.
Yes, but that's what we're saying. We're saying in business, that's what we want. And because I always say to people, ask yourself, because business people are in business to make one thing, and that is profit. So why would a businessman go to a foreign country, bring an expat, pay him 10 times what he would pay in Botswana? Why?
They want profit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Immediate profit.
Yes, because that guy will make you money. If look, like I'll go back to football because it simplifies things for people. The day that Ronaldo went from Real Madrid to Juventus, Juventus's website crashed. The sales of their jerseys exploded. That's one expat. One expat. What does he do? He plays football. The Italians could have said, hey man, signor, we've got players.
We've got players.
Right?
No. So many players can play.
You have to realize, yes, there's people who bring talent. Right? And if you're a small country of 2.3 million, right? Now, let me give you an idea. We are, the landmass of Botswana is the same size as France, 80 million people. California, 36 million people. Texas, I think it's about 20 million people. We are severely underpopulated. Right? Now, if we look at what Dubai is doing, 85% of Dubai is expats. Right? But the local Emiratis, they have not lost any of their rights. So if we keep Botswana and say, Botswana, you still keep CEDA, you still keep these grants, everything. You are the only people that vote. But we aggressively bring in people, to grow the economy. I mean, look, Botswana at population 10 million becomes a different proposition. Right? I mean, this is an out there idea. And
my business just needs a fraction of that.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Because now, like everybody that's got businesses in Botswana will tell you that if you're doing an exotic business that's not usual to Botswana, you have to become an exporter. You have to do all business because the market here is not that big. As I said to you before the air, I once went to these people, the MultiChoice, and I asked them, how many subscribers do you have in Botswana? And I was shocked. It's only 28,000.
Yeah.
That means there's only 28,000 people that can afford DSTV.
Yeah.
Right?
And that makes services quite expensive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the DSTV, that means it's what? 1%? Almost just 1% of Botswana.
Yeah.
That's the one, just over 1%. Let's say 2% of Botswana. Right? So we literally, in terms of markets, we will be small markets and everything like that.
Yeah.
And you know, just to give you perspective, another time I tried to do something with the breweries, and they referred me to South Africa, and then I was really upset that these guys were taking so long to answer me. And I said, you know, why aren't you guys taking me seriously? He said, listen, my friend, Soweto by itself drinks 2.5 times the beer that the whole country of Botswana drinks.
Just Soweto.
Just Soweto.
Yeah.
So where do you think you are in our priorities? Right? You see, this is the problem. For us to go forward, number one, why do we need more immigration? We need skills, we need competition, we need new blood. We need new blood. Yeah. The United States, every year, they give out 50,000 green cards. All they say is, have you passed high school? Okay, you can come. Doesn't matter. You'll learn the language here. Yeah. Right? Now, they can afford to say that. But they're bringing in ideas all the time. And like I said, 44% of their wealth, their wealthiest companies,
it's foreign.
They were immigrants.
Yeah.
They were immigrants. So we like to say, but you know, like, and at the same time, we must also understand that we don't keep all our Botswana. Like I said to you when the cameras were off, Great Britain now is looking for nurses. They're going to come to Botswana. When I took my mother to India, we've gone twice. We went 2 years ago and we went now. None of the nurses that were there 2 years ago are there. They've all gone to Ireland. Okay? It's going to happen. So now we're going to be losing talent. So now what do? We're going to have to wait, bring in a whole batch of new nurses, and we always have a revolving door of nurses. What does that mean for healthcare? You have inexperienced nurses. Yeah. When my mother was a nurse, nurses would be nurses. My mother was a nurse for 42 years. Yeah. Can you imagine the experience she has at the end of 42 years? And now you're bringing in young ladies who are 22 and they leave when they're 26. And you constantly have nurses with 4 years of experience. When your elderly parent goes there for your health, do you have confidence in that system? You see what I'm saying? Because they're inexperienced, right?
Mr. Dube.
Yes.
You know, this subject is a very interesting one. I think it can take us the whole day just discussing, you know, different, you know, ways of doing it. But I'm really glad that you came and, you know, you demystified this thing of, you know, bringing in, you know, expertise from other countries to come and help us. One, to increase the size of our population, to improve our market, improve our economics and all. And then two, to also share skills and bring in, you know, experiences, invaluable experience, you know, that we don't have in this country. So thank you so much for making time to join us. So I'm just going to ask you to give our viewers, if they want to contact you for any of your services, where can they reach you?
I'm still, funny enough, I'm still very old-fashioned. Basically, we just do corporate videos, we do adverts, and we do TV shows. So basically, you can get a hold of me at Skydiver. I just have an email. I'm on Instagram, but I haven't activated it. I am on Twitter, but I haven't activated it. So so it's just my email is skydiverproductions@gmail.com. Okay, so that's basically it.
All right.
Okay.
Dr. Dube, thank you so much for making time for us.
My pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you want to engage with us or for advertising space, call us at 3950026, 3950026, or on social media at Ignite Wealth or the Masheleng magazine. Remember, Ignite Wealth is offering the Financial Wellness Visual Training every other Sunday at 8 p.m. On the screen are a list of courses offered, which run up until November 2022. You can choose to enroll for one or more of the courses. Find payment details on the bottom of the screen.